Hey guys, we're in Langley, BC. I'm hanging out with Mark Moore. That's the guy lifting the bike. He's got his new shop, City Cycles, and this is Sam Atakanov from Surface.
Hey.
Pretty excited to get out there because we're going to compare a few bikes and just get some review shot. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, and this is your fourth shop, right, Mark?
This is number 3.
Oh, this is number 3.
Number 4 is Victoria.
Victoria, okay, okay. So you have 4 total.
4 total, that's it, I think. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm excited to actually get these mountain bikes out and, you know, do some trail riding. We're like cruising around, and this is near your house, Mark, right?
My house is right there.
It's right over there, and he's telling us that there's spotlights come in because this is Pop Shop from Riverdale.
Yeah, the Archie comics.
That's amazing.
They film at night, and the spotlights go right into my bedroom window.
Hey, bright and early for some bike riding, right?
There we go.
Wait, but that's at night. I don't know, whatever. I'm gonna be riding over that way?
Just up here, yeah. We're gonna go right to the river and park, and I'm gonna take you through some trails.
It's a cute little town. Well, guys, we made it. We're on the trail, and it is beautiful out here. And Mark, you're just such a lucky guy.
Welcome to my backyard.
I'm really excited about this too, because e-bikes are allowed on this trail, and we just saw some of your customers, it sounded like, and he was like, oh, look at the new bikes, Mark, and he was pretty excited. So I'm gonna jump right into it. I want to call out that we have the Cube Reaction Hybrid Pro here. It's also a hardtail. It's also black. It's got the plus size tires. So I thought it was a really interesting and relevant comparison to make. So we're really focused on the Surface 604 Shred here. This thing comes in 2 different sizes, 17.5 and 19. We're on the larger 19-inch frame right now, which is working pretty well for me. I'm 5'9", I weigh about 135 pounds. This bike, it weighs a little bit more. It's about 57 pounds versus the Cube Reaction Hybrid Pro. This thing weighs about 52, and it comes in a few different sizes, okay, more than just 2. So there are some trade-offs, but of course there's the price difference. This is $18.99, relatively affordable, and considering that it has some unique aspects, including it's a speed pedelec, so it can go up to about 28 miles per hour, 45 kilometers per hour. The fact that it has a throttle, a trigger throttle, which is definitely my preference for like a trail or a mountain bike, because you might be really bearing down on those grips, going over some bumpy terrain, and you don't want to accidentally activate a twist throttle. So trigger is the right answer here. I'm going to jump into some of the other specs, some things that I noticed. So I feel like the weight distribution on this bike is very good. We were lifting it up from right around here, and it wasn't tipping too much forward or backwards. The battery is positioned low and center. However, because they positioned it so low, we've got the battery charge port right here, which is next to the left crank arm. So you can imagine having a plug and then a wire coming out of this, and if you accidentally bump those pedals, you could snag that plug or even bend it. But there's actually a decent amount of clearance here. It's not super tight. And then down here, this is one of the superstars on this bike. This is the Bafang torque sensor. So it measures pedal torque and cadence, and it's one of the best, like smoothest feeling sort of bottom bracket sensors that I felt from Bafang. A lot of times you've got like a cadence sensor or something that's just a little bit simpler, or there's these TMM4 torque sensors. They're like a strain sensor, and they're just kind of delicate. It seems like if the chain is bouncing up and down, or if you over tighten the bolts at the rear, those torque sensors, you know, I've just had some mixed experiences. So I'm really liking this new Bafang setup. This is the first time I've seen it. And this bike, the way that it's set up, you know, it's designed to be both affordable and approachable for maybe city use or commuting around town. You know, it's a hardtail. This is like the first production unit that didn't have bosses on it, but the final version will. And they do sell a rack that's going to fit this bike. So for me, that's awesome because it also has an integrated headlight. And this thing is pretty bright. That's the Spaninga Ascendo, and at 80 lux. It's got 2 beams right there. I'm going to turn that on later, but think about that. You could be riding around town, getting a little bit of comfort, in part because we got the 100mm SR Suntour XCM30. And Sam, it's actually 120, isn't it? Yes, it is. 120. Okay, so we've got some decent travel. We've got compression adjust with lockout. We got preload, so if you weigh a little bit more, maybe you're on the bigger frame, you can, you know, preload those springs. It is a spring fork. It's not as lightweight as like an air fork, and that's probably part of the difference. You know, if we come over here to the Reaction Hybrid, actually this is a spring fork too. Maybe it comes down to motor weight. You know, the batteries are definitely a little bit lighter. That's a Bosch battery compared to, I don't know what this is called, but I see these a lot. It's about 7.1 pounds. I was weighing this earlier. It is removable. You can charge it on or off the bike, and they have the 10.4 amp hour 48 volt or the 14 amp hour. So if you're someone who's definitely using that throttle, weighing a little bit more, going further, You can upgrade the battery. The other upgrade I should call out here is the Suntour Ncx Suspension Seatpost. That does not come stock, but I love it. You know, when you look at these 27.5 by 2.8 plus size tires combined with the 120 millimeter suspension fork combined with the suspension seat post, you get a full suspension feel, and they have this adjustable angle Ergotech 6, really burly adjustable angle stem. I love this because so many times, you know, you have like one bolt going through and you have that adjustable angle. Admittedly, that's not like a real mountain biking part, okay? You know, if you come over here to these little bit higher end bikes, that's just a solid aluminum alloy stem. It weighs less, it's tighter. The handlebar on this bike is longer. Compared to over here, this might fit through city traffic a little bit better. But for trail riding, something like this is not too technical, and the bike performs well, and it's still very solid, but you can bring the bars up, and even that rise there in the bars, it's gonna bring your body back and into that more comfortable upright position. So I feel like this bike just offers a lot of value and versatility. So again, it would have the rack there. They even managed to squeeze on some bottle cage bosses, which again, they're not present right now, but they will be right there. I love that. I've seen that on some of the other Surface 604 electric bikes as well. You can see that the cabling, a lot of it is internally routed here through that down tube. And that's kind of nice. It keeps the frame clean, a little bit exposed here at the bottom bracket, but not too bad. The chainring drops below that. I believe that's 38 tooth. 170 or 175 millimeter crank arms, depending on the frame size you go with. I like the Wellgo aluminum alloy platform pedals with fixed pins. It's a good choice for terrain like today where my feet are a little bit damp. You know, we've been walking mossy stuff. We might have a puddle or something. You don't want to slide off. So I definitely appreciate that. And then the kickstand position and design, it's adjustable length, and it's positioned out of the way of the crank arm, so you're not going to collide and get pedal lock. Love that. I want to call out that the spokes here are a little bit thicker. These are 36 hole. I think it's 13 in the front, 12 in the rear to handle the power from that motor. This is a 500 watt nominal up to 750 watt peak. And I was told, you know, checking the Bafang website, 50 Newton meters of torque, not too bad. But compared to like the Bosch Performance Line CX motor, this thing can put out 75 Newton meters of torque, and it's a mid-drive, so when you switch gears, you give it a mechanical advantage. The weight it's more centrally located here. It's lower. Wheel maintenance is going to be easier because it's got quick release front and rear, but we're paying more. Mark, do you know how much this bike is? I forgot to ask.
$33.99 Canadian.
$33.99 Canadian. Oh man, they're throwing me for a loop. I was trying to do a little bit less USD, right? But whatever. Again, $18.99. So it's kind of about, do you want the throttle? Do you want the higher speed and the ability to do a rear rack? This one also has the bosses and stuff. You know, this is so dynamic. It has shift detection and stuff. I really like that, but you still have to watch out and be conscious of how you're shifting. It's a little bit more of an advanced feel and performance versus something like this. So we are on the topic of shifting here. I just want to call out, we've got those nice trigger shifters, SRAM X5, 11 to 36, cassette in the rear, nice and tucked in. Like this is a nicer part, but you do have a little bit of crowding here. So the shifting cable versus the motor power cable, there's a quick disconnect there. So yeah, you can do rear wheel maintenance. You know, it takes just a little bit of extra finessing here. You need tools to get these bolts off. There's that extra cable. There's just, you miss out on that quick release. And if this was a full suspension bike, you'd have the unsprung weight of the motor. So, you know, hub motors really work well when it's a hardtail like this, in my opinion. That's one of the big takeaways. And in the front, we've just got a standard 9mm quick release that you might be used to seeing. This does not have boost, despite having plus size tires. So I think that's part of the reason they went with the thicker spokes and stuff. So again, 27.5 by 2.8, and the rims, they're like 35mm outer diameter. So they are supporting the larger tire, and I think they're doing a pretty good job, and it gives you like the float and the traction, especially over softer like loamy stuff like we've got here. It's an interesting mix of parts, of design, and I really like it. I feel like there's great value here, and you do have a tapered head tube, so you could upgrade that suspension fork yourself later and go with an air fork. And because the bike is black, you know, the battery, the motor, everything blends in pretty well, and there are lots of choices for black suspension forks. And then you'd have to remount this lighter, maybe remove it. You know, same with the kickstand. If you're really mountain biking and stuff, you don't want that thing like brrr, brrr, like constantly bouncing around. And the headlight, it's mounted on that arch, so it's going to be bouncing up and down a little bit too. Love the Tetro Dorado hydraulic disc brakes. These are like 4 4-finger levers. They've got the ball end, and that's like a speed pedelec requirement. They have motor inhibitors, and that's great because if you accidentally do activate that throttle or that torque sensor, you want to be able to override that, especially when you do get onto some of that technical terrain, because you might be kind of like trying to balance yourself, and if the motor's trying to kick in, it's pretty dynamic and fluid. It's one of the more responsive torque sensors for a hub motor, but still there are moments where you just don't want it interfering. So having those motor inhibitors on both brake levers is excellent. And then we have 180 millimeter rotors down here, which is a great size. I mean, it's going to give you enough stopping power for a bike like this, even though it is a little bit heavier. I feel like that's pretty great. And remember, I was talking about the optional 14 amp hour battery pack. Apparently it weighs about the same because it's just using higher energy density cells. So a lot of the weight is just in the cell casing and then the casing itself here. And I want to call out, it kind of like comes out from the side, so they were able to drop that top tube a little bit. Not quite as far as it feels like they could have, but I was talking to Sam about this, and he said, well, you know, we did all the stress measurements and stuff, and this was as low as we could get it and still have this be a really capable, sturdy, tough bike. Sam used to be like a semi-pro mountain bike rider, competitive, and, you know, a lot of the parts on their bikes, even some of their, like there's the Step Through, there's the Colt and the Rook city bikes, they have nicer parts, and it's like sealed, you know, headsets and bottom brackets and stuff that might be easy to overlook or not appreciate if you don't come from the bicycle industry. So for me, that's where Surface is like, it's like a step above a lot of the other more affordable entry-level stuff, but it's definitely a step below like the real high-end performance stuff. And you get the unique aspects of the throttle and everything else like that. And you get stuff like this. This is a 5-volt, 500 milliamp USB Type A, just a standard USB port. You could get one of those right angle adapters from Amazon and maybe use some zip ties, mount your phone, mount an additional light, or just whatever. And that'll work even if it's off the bike. So this is just a big backup battery, you know, like for extra energy, maybe if you go camping or something like that, about 500 watt hours. I really appreciate that. We come up to the display panel. It is not removable. It's fairly large, but it can be swiveled back and forth to maybe reduce glare a little bit, and that's sort of nice. I like the button pad, but you do have to reach over the trigger throttle, so there's a bit more reaching going on, but each button has its own specific function. So I'm gonna angle this so maybe it's not glaring as much. Hold the power button for a second. Comes to life. Battery, it has 10 ticks, so that's pretty nice. 10% increments versus like 5 ticks on the Bosch. Speed, right now it's in kilometers per hour because I'm in Canada. Trip, that's like a trip distance, and if we press the I button, it goes to total distance, max speed, 54.8 kilometers. So that's even faster than the supported motor assistance, but you know, you start bombing a trail, like going down, and these bikes can really get going, just like any bike. Average speed, and back to trip. I think if we hold the light button for just a second, yeah, this display actually goes backlit, and then we can see that headlight. It was really quite bright. This is one of my favorite lights that's kind of hitting the value price point, but actually performs well. Okay, and then we've got the different levels of assist. If we go down to 0, the throttle doesn't work or anything. In 1, it does, but it's actually limited by the assist level. So that's another one of my gripes. If you have a variable speed twist throttle or a trigger throttle, it's nice to be able to use the variable, like, you know, press it gently and go slowly, and but have full access. You can override assist level 1 with full power. You can't do that here, so you have to reach over, click, 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 and remember there's a bit of a reach here. So that's one of the compromises that, you know, I asked Sam about, and he was like, well, we tried, but Bafang just wouldn't do it. So that's too bad. So you have to click up to level 5, then you can use the throttle at full speed, which is really nice. There are a bunch of other settings in there too if you double click the I button. So trip clear, we've got speed in kilometers per hour or miles per hour. Backlighting, so you can say, like, there's actually a sensor on the back of this that says, like, how sensitive is it? Do you want me to turn on the lights automatically when it's dim like this, or do you want it to be super bright? So maybe you're saving some power. Okay, the menu closed. And actually, since, you know, I grew up in the US and I'm a little bit more familiar with miles per hour, so I'm gonna leave that. Then there's also the backlighting on the display, so I can click that. See how it's actually getting brighter when I did that? That's cool. So I'm going to leave the display as bright as possible. And then, let's see. This is what I was trying to get to, password. So you can actually enter the password and you can lower the top speed. So you could make this like a class 1 electric bike. Maybe you just want to save battery, or you're on a trail that doesn't allow like class 3 or whatever. There's a lot of options, and there's even a quick disconnect here for the throttle. So you could take that off if you wanted to, and again, make this into like a class 1. So I think that's kind of it. I'm gonna get Sam over here real quick and chat. I see you got a light on your bike over here, Mark. What's going on with that?
You know what? This is Jason's demo, so I think he's just he's trying a couple different ones out there. That's not gonna blind you, is it?
No. What? Who said that? This is great. This is it's nice to see. You know, we were talking about how a hub motor would be unsprung weight if it was full suspension. So on a bike like this, it's really, you know, preferable to have the mid-drive. Is this also a Bosch CX?
Yes.
Yeah, it seems like
All
that's...
the Cube mountain bikes are.
Yeah, Cube does a great job with their Bosch integration, really tight, and then we've got the little Purion display panel. So again, compared to the bigger one, this one has the really wide handlebars. Let's go back on over, Sam.
Yeah.
So, you know, we talked about the different options for like upgrading the seat post, the battery pack. Tell me about the rear rack. Is it gonna have pannier hangers or something? Or
Yes,
what?
so if you've ever seen our Boar, comes with a rear rack.
The Hunter, the fat bike.
Yeah, so I've designed a very similar rack specifically for the Shred. The production version will have the rack mountain bosses, and it'll be a perfectly integrated rear rack that will take any off-the-shelf pannier bags.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that's great, because, you know, for commuting, there's the ones that like, so it's standard gauge tubing. They just like click right on.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, that's fantastic. Went through the display. I don't know if you have anything else to add, but I was impressed that this seems to capture sort of the trail riding experience and the potential for an urban, just a fun bike, like getting around.
Absolutely, yeah, that's what it was designed for. I personally commute on this bike. I can commute on it all day and not be tired and still be able to go hit some local trails, and we live in BC, and that's what you do.
You've ridden quite a ways. Here, let me check this out. It's like, if we go to total, so you've ridden like almost 300 miles. I don't know the kilometers. I switched it. Sorry, buddy.
No,
that's
okay.
It's good.
Yeah.
You know, the bike was dirty when we got here, and you're like, yeah, you're the product guy in the company, and that's great. Tell me about the warranty you offer as well.
On the frame, we offer 3-year warranty, and then everything else, including the battery, comes with 1 year.
You're comprehensive.
Warranty.
And you have a network of dealers, including Mark Moore over there with his city cycle shops in the Vancouver area. And then you also do some direct sales, because there aren't always shops nearby. So your
Correct.
website, do you mind hopping? Actually, I want to hop on the bike first.
Okay.
I'm going to film some stuff. Then I want to get you on it and get some third-person perspectives.
Okay, sounds good.
So here we go. I'm just going to stow the kickstand. I'm up in pedal assist level 5, which is kind of the highest. And I'm just going to cruise down this trail and show you how responsive it is. Plus size tires are feeling really nice on this kind of gravelly terrain. It'll probably be easy to sort of high side or slide out if you didn't have the extra traction, but it is going to make some more noise, and it adds a little bit of drag. So there's some efficiency hits, but you know, it's meant to be a mountain bike and actually perform. And that's what the whole like frame design I was talking about before, where the standover height on this bike isn't as low as it looks like it could be, and they did that for strength. Okay guys, from here you can see the chain, 38 tooth chain ring, 11 to 36 in the rear, 9 speeds with the trigger shifter. I like that. And Sam, come on over here. Why did you pick the SRAM X5 versus like Shimano Dior or something?
Well, this is a mountain bike, and proper smooth shifting is something that I was focusing on.
Yeah.
And the SRAM X5 provides you with that excellent shifting capabilities. That's part of the reason why we went with the SRAM.
Is it pretty reliable, or I mean?
Very reliable. Yep. It's
Okay.
SRAM is very well known in the mountain biking world,
Uh-huh.
and a part of the reason why we use the SRAM is for exactly that. It's reliable. It's smooth. And those trigger shifters work really nice too.
Now you don't have a narrow wide chain ring, you don't have a chain guide, there's no chain cover, so it kind of makes sense to me that like you wanted to keep this clean and maybe lightweight and not a lot of noise. Have you experienced, just be honest with us, I guess, has the chain fallen off for you?
No, chain has not fallen off for me at all.
Is this because it's like the spring's pretty tight in the X5, or what's?
The chain line itself is perfect on this bike.
Oh, okay.
So you're not getting any extreme angles where the chain might even come to an angle where it will fall off. No.
Okay. You know, and guys, I'm doing the best I can to kind of poke through this thing and give you some different perspectives. because this isn't a mid-drive motor, you're not going to get like mashing when you shift. It's your power, and then there's like the motor power. But they're blended really nicely with that torque sensing bottom bracket, and that's what I'm trying to illustrate here. So I'm in the highest level of assist. I'm going to pedal along, shift some gears, just listen for how quickly it starts and stops, and smoothly. Like they did a really good job. Yeah, I must say it is shifting very nicely. I did a little bit of trigger throttle at the end there as well. It's just a blast. This bike, it really flies and it feels natural, which is something I'm not used to as much with hub motors, because it's always like the on-off cadence sensor. So, good on them. Yeah, this time I'm just going to use the throttle. There we go. Nice and easy. Oh yeah. See, so I'm on 5, so I have potential to go full power, but I'm just barely pushing it, and it really gives you a lot of control. And now I'm going to juice it. Beautiful. Okay guys, from here you can see the drivetrain, maybe the front suspension a little bit, and those bigger tires. I just thought it'd be a cool view, and maybe you can even listen to the motor a little bit while we ride. Going to be a lot of fun cruising behind you, not being able to keep up. So keep that in mind. Maybe check back every once in a while.
Okay, sounds good.
Sweet. Okay.
All right.
And hop on. Try to catch up. That seat post suspension's really doing a trick, and that's like $99 upgrade. Awesome. I love just the beautiful views here. We got Mark in the back. We got the third bike. Interesting, back to back, there's definitely a similar like smooth feeling. Like I like the way that motor responds. And it's out of breath, like pedaling, trying to keep up. A lot of fun. Maybe I can hop on that now.
Sure,
is that all right?
that.
We'll just trade it off.
Yeah.
Just blast off with the throttle. It's kind of nice. And then once you pedal, you use the pedal assist, it can go significantly faster. This is, we're at 38, 39 kilometers per hour. That's what it feels like to go 42. And again, be careful. Think about where you're at. We found a place where it's really wide open. The brakes are responding really, really well. But the brakes, they can only stop as fast as the terrain, right? So just be conscious of that. Whew, man. It's a perfect day for this.
Did you guys all get new toys?
That's right. Having a lot of fun on these. Nice. You guys, thank you so much. It's been an awesome time hanging out in the forest and getting to meet some strangers who are interested in the bike.
He knows you.
He knows
Does
you.
he knows
He
me.
just watched the video.
He's like curious about the bike. Do you want to say anything? This is your moment.
Oh,
looking at getting one, and I'm probably going to buy one from this guy right here.
Really? From Mark Moore? What an awesome...
Just spoke on the phone the other day. He was just walking by.
It's serendipity.
There you
Nice
go.
to meet you. What's your name?
Martin, good to meet you.
Martin. My name's Court.
Great.
Nice to meet you. We gotta finish this review up. There's conversations happening out here. For the full write-up on the Surface 604 Shred, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com for the details, comments, anything you might want to know. Sam, you've just been super helpful. It's always a pleasure to meet someone from the company who's giving me direct feedback. You've been pretty helpful in the past as well. I think that's kind of it. I wish you guys luck with this. And Mark, thank you so much for sharing your time and taking us to these awesome trails.
Anytime, Court.
Cool. See you next time.
Thank you.